My brother told me I'm too ugly to ever deserve a nice apartment on my own because, according to him, I'll never get married anyway, so why bother wasting a good place on someone like me? My name is Michael, I'm 31, and I've been enduring my older brother David's unkindness for as long as I can recall. What began as typical sibling competition has morphed into something far more unpleasant, and now he's trying to claim my home. Growing up, David was seen as the ideal child, athletic, charming, conventionally good-looking, everything our parents desired in a son. I was the quieter one, more interested in computers than sports. And yes, I'll admit, I'm not winning any beauty pageants. I have a noticeable birthmark on my left cheek, my nose is crooked from a childhood incident David caused. And I've grappled with significant acne scars since my teenage years. However, I believed I had come to terms with my appearance. I have a successful career as a software engineer, good friends, and recently, I finally saved enough to purchase my dream apartment in downtown Chicago. This apartment embodies everything I worked for: exposed brick walls, expansive windows overlooking the city, a modern kitchen where I can pursue my cooking passion. It's situated in a renovated historic building, and I spent months searching for the perfect spot. When I finally completed the purchase 6 months ago, I thought I had reached a milestone that would at last earn some respect from my family. I was mistaken. The remarks started immediately when David first visited. "Wow, Michael, this is quite the bachelor pad. A shame you'll never actually need it as a bachelor pad, right?" He laughed as if it were the most hilarious joke in the world. When I didn't respond, he continued, "I mean, come on, look at this place, the exposed brick, the mood lighting. It's all wasted on someone who will never bring anyone home." I tried to ignore it, but the comments intensified with each visit. "You know, Sarah and I are cramped in our 2-bedroom with the kids. Seems unfair that you get all this space just for yourself." Sarah is his wife, and they have 2 children, Tyler, 7, and Emily, 5. They live in a perfectly suitable, suburban house, but David has always been preoccupied with status and appearances. Last month, things took a darker turn. David began showing up unannounced, sometimes when I wasn't there. I had given him a spare key for emergencies, which I now realize was a huge error. I'd return home to find things out of place, my personal items disturbed. When I confronted him, he claimed he was just checking the place out and that I was being overly suspicious. Then came the dinner at our parents' house, 2 weeks ago. The whole family was there. My parents, Robert and Patricia, my sister Jennifer, with her husband, and David's family. I was sharing some photos of the renovation work I'd done on the apartment when David interrupted. "You know what I think," he said, his voice carrying that falsely casual tone I'd learned to dread. "I think it's selfish. Here's Michael living alone in this gorgeous apartment that's clearly meant for a family, while actual families like mine are squeezed into smaller spaces." Jennifer attempted to change the subject, but David wouldn't let it go. "I'm serious. What does he need with a place like that? It's not like he's ever going to share it with anyone. Look at him. Mom, when's the last time he even went on a date?" The room fell silent. My mother fiddled with her napkin while my father suddenly found his plate very absorbing. I felt my face flush, that familiar childhood embarrassment washing over me. "David, that's enough," Jennifer said quietly. "What? I'm just being realistic. Some people are meant to have families, and some people," he gestured at me, "are meant to live alone. Why waste a beautiful apartment on someone who will never appreciate its full potential? That place could be a real home for a real family." I stood up, my hands trembling. "You mean your family?" David shrugged, not even trying to conceal his intentions anymore. "If the shoe fits, I mean, let's be honest here. You're never getting married, Michael. You're never having kids. What do you need with 3 bedrooms and all that space? You could get a nice studio somewhere, something more appropriate for your situation." The word appropriate struck me like a physical blow. He meant appropriate for someone who looked like me, appropriate for someone he deemed unworthy of nice things. I left without another word, disregarding my mother's weak protests and my father's silence. But that wasn't the end of it. Over the past 2 weeks, David has been on a campaign. He's been telling extended family members that I'm hoarding resources and being selfish with my success. He even suggested to our cousin that I must be overcompensating for something by buying such a nice place. The worst part, some people seem to agree with him. My Aunt Michelle called yesterday to gently suggest that perhaps I should consider being more generous with my living situation. David has a growing family, she said, and you're still young. You could easily find another place. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is it truly so wrong for a person who isn't conventionally attractive to want a nice home? Do I have to prove I'm worthy of my own apartment by being in a relationship? I worked for years to afford this place. I sacrificed vacations, drove the same old car for a decade, and lived on ramen through college to save money. But apparently, none of that matters because of how I look. David has started bringing up the apartment in every discussion, framing it as a moral issue. He tells people I'm being unrealistic about my prospects and that I'm wasting my best years living in denial. He's even told his kids that Uncle Michael is preventing them from having a better home, turning my own nephew and niece against me. I don't know what to do. I adore my apartment. It's the first space that's ever felt truly mine, where I don't have to apologize for existing. But the family pressure is increasing, and David is relentless. He's even started sending me listings for studio apartments in less desirable neighborhoods, claiming he's trying to help me be realistic. I'm not under any false impressions about my appearance. I know I'm not conventionally attractive. But does that mean I don't deserve to live somewhere pleasant? Does being single and unattractive mean I should accept less in life? I've built a good career. I have friends. I volunteer at the animal shelter on weekends. I have a life, even if it doesn't include a romantic partner. But David has this way of making me feel like none of that matters, like I'm somehow stealing from more deserving people just by occupying a space he covets. He's weaponized my appearance, using it to argue that I don't deserve what I've earned. I'm at a loss. Part of me wants to sell the apartment just to make this stop. But another part of me knows that giving in would mean accepting his cruel reasoning that people who aren't conventionally attractive should live in unappealing places. That being alone means being less deserving of comfort and beauty. I need guidance. How do I deal with a brother who believes my appearance disqualifies me from having a nice home? How do I stand up to family pressure when everyone seems to think his logic makes sense? And how do I stop feeling like, maybe deep down, he's right? Update 1. 2 days later, I want to express my gratitude to everyone who responded to my initial post. Your comments provided me with the courage to act, and boy, do I have an update for you. After considering your advice, I decided to change my locks immediately. The locksmith came yesterday morning, and I also installed a security system with cameras. I felt a bit overly cautious doing it, but several of you highlighted that David's behavior was escalating, and you were absolutely correct. This morning, I received an angry call from David. Apparently, he tried to let himself into my apartment last night while I was at work. I often work late on Thursdays. He was furious that his key didn't work and accused me of being paranoid and unstable. What were you planning to do in my apartment at 10 p.m.? I asked. There was a pause before he said, I was going to measure the rooms. Sarah found some furniture that would look perfect in there. In my apartment, in what should be our apartment. He snapped. You're being ridiculous, Michael. Do you know how selfish you look right now? My kids are sharing a room while you have 3 bedrooms to yourself. 3. What are you using them for? A gaming room. A shrine to your loneliness. I actually laughed, which seemed to make him angrier. For context, I use one bedroom as my home office. I work remotely 2 days a week, and the other is a guest room that Jennifer uses when she visits from out of state. But I didn't feel the need to explain myself to him. David, you're not getting my apartment. Not now, not ever. Stop trying. He hung up on me, but within an hour, I started receiving calls from family members. The story he fabricated was unbelievable. According to David, I had cruelly locked him out when he was merely attempting to help me reorganize to make better use of the space. He told our mother that he'd found a family therapist who could assist me with my hoarding tendencies and inability to share. But here's where it gets truly bizarre. My cousin Jessica called me to warn me about something she'd overheard David discussing with his wife at a family barbecue last weekend. Apparently, they've been planning this for months. Sarah has been looking at private schools in my neighborhood, and they've already consulted a real estate agent about selling their current house. They were so convinced I'd give in that they had started making actual plans to take over my apartment. Jessica sent me screenshots of Sarah's Pinterest board, titled City Living Redesign. It's filled with ideas for my apartment. She's pinned furniture arrangements, kids, bedroom themes, and even kitchen renovations. The caption on one pin says, "When we finally convince M to be reasonable." The sense of entitlement is astounding. But what truly affected me was discovering what they've been telling their kids. Jessica's daughter is friends with Emily, David's daughter, and Emily told her that they're moving to Uncle Michael's apartment soon because he's too ugly to need it. They've got a 7-year-old repeating this toxic nonsense. I called my sister Jennifer, and she confirmed she's been hearing similar things. Apparently, David has been laying the groundwork for months, gradually normalizing the idea that I don't deserve my apartment because of my appearance. He's been telling people that it's wasteful for someone who will never have a family to live in a family-sized space. Jennifer was furious. I had no idea it had gotten this bad, she said. I knew he was being a jerk about your appearance, but this is beyond cruel. This is systematic manipulation. She's right. Looking back, I can see the pattern. Every comment about my appearance was linked to my apartment. Every joke about my single status was followed by a remark about wasted space. He's been constructing a narrative where my appearance makes me unworthy of nice things, specifically the nice thing he desires. But here's the unexpected turn. Jennifer did some investigating and discovered that David is in financial difficulty. His company downsized last quarter, and while he kept his job, his bonuses were cut significantly. The private schools Sarah is looking at, they can't afford them with their current mortgage. They need to either downsize or find a way to live somewhere more affordably while maintaining their lifestyle. Enter my apartment in a great school district. With lower HOA fees than their current place, and most importantly, owned by someone David genuinely believes doesn't deserve it. My parents called tonight, and for the first time in my life, I heard my father angry at David. Apparently, David made the mistake of forwarding him a reasonable proposal he drafted with a lawyer friend. The proposal suggested I could transfer ownership to a family trust managed by David, with a lifetime residency guarantee for me in the guest bedroom. The guest bedroom. In my own apartment, my father's exact words were, "I didn't raise my sons to be thieves or bullies. What you're doing to Michael is both. But the damage is already done in some ways. I can't undo the fact that my nephew and niece think their uncle is too ugly to deserve a home. I can't unhear my brother stating matter-of-factly that my appearance determines my worth. I can't pretend that some of my extended family didn't initially side with him. Tomorrow, I'm meeting with a lawyer to discuss my options. Several of you suggested a cease and desist letter, and I think it's time. I'm also going to document everything, every text, every conversation, every Pinterest board planning the theft of my home. I'm done being the family punching bag. I'm done apologizing for my appearance, and I'm absolutely done with anyone who thinks being ugly means being undeserving. I'll update again soon. Update 2. 1 week later. The last week has been a whirlwind, and I have a lot to update you on. Prepare yourselves, because David's extinction burst has been something too. Behold. First, the legal aspect. I met with my lawyer, Patricia, ironically, sharing my mother's name, and she was appalled by the situation. We sent a formal cease and desist letter to David, explicitly stating that he is not welcome at my property, and any further harassment will lead to legal action. Patricia also advised me to start a detailed log of all interactions, which has already proven useful. The letter was delivered on Monday. By Tuesday morning, David had gone completely out of control. It started with a family group text that I woke up to at 6 a.m. David had written a lengthy message about how devastated he was by my cruel rejection of family and how he was only trying to help. He claimed that seeing me alone in that big apartment broke his heart and he wanted his children to grow up knowing their uncle. Before I could respond, the messages started pouring in. Most family members were confused, asking what was happening. But David was ready with screenshots selectively edited. Of course. He shared parts of our text conversations where he'd suggested I was wasting space, but conveniently omitted his cruel comments about my appearance. He portrayed himself as a concerned brother, attempting to bring the family together. My sister Jennifer immediately challenged him, posting the full conversations, including his too ugly to need it comments. That's when things became really interesting. Our cousin Mark, who I've never been particularly close to, interjected with his own story. Apparently, when Mark got engaged last year, David had made similar remarks about how surprising it was that Mark had managed to find someone despite being a bit chunky. The floodgates opened. Story after story emerged about David's pattern of unkind remarks disguised as concern or jokes. Our Aunt Linda shared how he told her daughter she should aim realistically in her career because she wasn't pretty enough for front-facing roles. Our cousin James revealed that David had tried to convince him to sell his classic car collection because single guys with toys look pathetic. But the most astonishing revelation came from Sarah, David's wife. She added a long message to the group chat that left everyone stunned. "I need to come clean about something," she wrote. "David has been pressuring me about the apartment situation, but I've been against it from the start. He's convinced that Michael will give in eventually because, in his words, he knows his place. I'm ashamed I didn't speak up sooner, but David has become obsessed with the idea that less attractive people should accept less in life. This isn't about the apartment. It's about control and his own insecurities. I'm currently staying with my mother while I figure things out." The plot twist none of us anticipated. Sarah left him. She took the kids and has been staying with her parents since Wednesday. According to Jennifer, who spoke with Sarah privately, this apartment situation was the final straw in a pattern of increasingly harmful behavior. David had apparently been making similar comments about their own children, telling Tyler he needed to work harder than handsome kids and warning Emily that she'd need to develop a good personality because she inherited his nose. David's reaction to his wife leaving. "He appeared at my apartment building on Thursday night. The security cameras I installed captured everything. He spent 20 minutes buzzing my intercom, alternating between threats and manipulation. Some notable moments. Michael, open up. This is all your fault. You've turned my wife against me with your victim complex. I was trying to help you. You're going to die alone in there? You think you're better than me because you have a nice apartment. You're still the ugly little brother." When I didn't respond, he tried to persuade another resident to let him in, claiming to be surprising me for my birthday, which is in January. Fortunately, the building security was alerted, and they escorted him out. I've added his photo to the do not admit list at the front desk. Friday brought a new development. My parents, who had been relatively quiet since the group chat explosion, invited me over for dinner, just me. When I arrived, they sat me down for the most honest conversation we've ever had. My mother started crying almost immediately. "We failed you," she said. "We always knew David could be cruel, but we told ourselves it was just sibling rivalry. We made excuses because it was easier than addressing the real problem." My father, who's always been a man of few words, was more direct. "David is a bully. He always has been. We thought he'd grow out of it, but instead he grew into it, and we let it happen. When he made those comments at dinner about your appearance, we should have stopped it immediately. I'm ashamed that we didn't." They told me they'd been doing their own introspection since this all came to light. They realized they'd often given in to David's demands over the years to maintain peace, inadvertently reinforcing his belief that he could manipulate situations to his advantage. They also admitted to being relieved when I became successful, because they worried about me being alone not because of my appearance, but because of how David's unkindness had affected my self-esteem. "You're not ugly, Michael," my mother said firmly. "You're our son, and you're wonderful. Even if you were the ugliest person in the world, which you're not, you'd still deserve every good thing you've worked for. David's heart is what's ugly. I won't lie. I cried, 31 years old and crying in my parents' kitchen, but it was incredibly cathartic." The weekend brought one final surprise. Remember the Pinterest board Sarah had created? Well, she sent me a lengthy email with an apology and an explanation. She created it not because she wanted my apartment, but because David had insisted she visualize their future. He'd been so confident in his ability to manipulate me that he treated my apartment as already theirs. She shared more details about his behavior. He'd driven by my building every day on his way to work, even though it added 20 minutes to his commute. He'd taken photos of my apartment during visits and shown them to his coworkers as our new place. He'd been postponing necessary repairs on their house because we'll be moving soon anyway. And he told the kids they could each have their own room at Uncle Michael's and let them choose which ones they wanted. The delusion was complete. In his mind, my apartment was already his. He just needed to convince me that I didn't deserve it first. As of today, David has been completely silent since his building outburst. His wife is still at her parents' house and has started looking for her own apartment. My parents have made it clear that he's not welcome at family gatherings until he gets therapy and makes genuine amends. The family group chat has been peaceful, with cousins and aunts sharing truly supportive messages and humorous images. But the best part, I'm sitting in my apartment right now. In my apartment, looking out at the city lights. I cooked dinner in my kitchen, worked in my office, and video called Jennifer in the guest room she uses. Every room is being used exactly as I intended, by the person who worked for it and earned it. I'm still processing everything that's happened, the cruelty, the entitlement, the manipulation. It's a lot. But I'm also feeling something I haven't felt in years. Free. Free from the constant put-downs. Free from questioning my worth. Free from the voice in my head that sounds suspiciously like David telling me I don't deserve good things. I'm also scheduling therapy for myself. Not because I think I'm ugly or undeserving, but because I need to unpack decades of this treatment and learn how to maintain these new boundaries. Thank you all for your support. I'll update if anything significant happens, but for now, I'm just enjoying my beautiful apartment in peace. Update 3. 2 months later, I wasn't planning to update again, but what occurred yesterday deserves to be shared. After 2 months of relative calm, David made his final move, and it was even more audacious than I expected. First, let me catch you up on the past 2 months. I've been in therapy, which has been incredibly helpful. My therapist has helped me recognize that David's treatment goes beyond sibling rivalry. It's been a form of emotional abuse designed to keep me feeling less than. We've been working on rebuilding my self-esteem and maintaining boundaries. Sarah officially filed for divorce last month. She and the kids have their own apartment now, and I've actually been spending time with Tyler and Emily. It turns out when they're not being poisoned against me, they're great kids. Emily apologized for saying I was too ugly for my apartment, and it broke my heart when she said, "Daddy told us that, but Mommy says it's not true. I think your apartment is cool. And you're not ugly, you just look like Uncle Michael." David, meanwhile, has been living in what I can only describe as a parallel reality. According to Jennifer, he's been telling people that Sarah will come to her senses soon and that they're just working through some issues. He's also maintained that I stole his family's future home and that I'm the reason his marriage fell apart. Our parents have stood firm. He's been uninvited from family gatherings until he seeks therapy and apologizes. His response: to tell extended family that our parents are under Michael's manipulation, and that I've turned everyone against him with my victim act. Which brings us to yesterday. I was working from home when my intercom buzzed. The front desk called up to say I had visitors, and Mr. Thompson and his wife were here to see the apartment. I was confused since I wasn't selling, but the desk clarified that they were here with my brother for a showing. I immediately went down to the lobby, and, sure enough, there was David with a well-dressed couple in their 40s. He was mid-sentence when he saw me, and as you can see, the building has excellent security. My brother has loved living here, but he's ready for something more appropriate for his situation. The couple looked confused. The woman said, "I thought you said your brother was expecting us." "He is," David said smoothly, not missing a beat. "Michael, these are the Thompsons. They're very interested in the apartment. I told them you'd be happy to show them around since you're working from home today." The audacity was breathtaking. He'd actually brought potential buyers to my apartment without my knowledge or consent. But I'd learned a lot in therapy about staying calm and not giving him the reaction he wanted. "I think there's been a misunderstanding," I said to the Thompsons. "I'm not selling my apartment. I'm not sure what my brother told you, but this showing isn't authorized." David's face flushed. "Michael, don't be difficult. We discussed this. The Thompsons have driven all the way from Neepville. We haven't discussed anything, David, and I'm definitely not selling my home." The Thompsons were clearly uncomfortable. Mr. Thompson said, "David, you told us your brother was downsizing and had already agreed to the sale. You said we just needed to see it to finalize our offer." That's when building security approached. I'd quietly signaled them when I came down. "Sir," one of them said to David, "you're on our no-admit list. We need you to leave immediately." David tried to argue, but the Thompsons were already backing away. Mrs. Thompson said, "This is highly inappropriate. You've wasted our time." They left quickly, clearly upset at being dragged into whatever this was. David turned on me, his mask finally slipping completely. "You selfish scoundrel. Do you know what you've cost me? Sarah left because of you. My kids barely talk to me because of you. And you sit up there in your castle, rubbing it in my face." "David," I said as calmly as I could manage, "Sarah left because you told your children they were ugly. Your kids don't talk to you because you've been cruel to them, and I'm living in the apartment I bought with the money I earned. None of that has anything to do with my appearance or what I deserve." He stepped toward me, and security intervened. As they escorted him out, he shouted, "You'll always be the ugly one, Michael. That apartment won't change that." "No," I called back, "but it's still mine." After he was gone, I went back to my apartment and immediately called my lawyer. She's sending another cease and desist and exploring a restraining order. I also called the Thompsons' real estate agent. They'd left a business card with explained the situation. The agent was mortified and said they'd been told I was a motivated seller who was too shy to list publicly due to personal appearance issues. He'd literally used my appearance as part of his deceit. But here's the thing, I'm not angry anymore. I'm not even hurt. If anything, I feel sorry for David. He's lost his wife, his children's respect, his family's support, and his reputation because he couldn't accept that someone he deemed ugly could have something nice. His obsession with my appearance and what I deserve has cost him everything. Last night, Sarah texted me. Jennifer told me what happened. I'm so sorry. For what it's worth, the kids and I are doing great in our new place. It's smaller than the house, but it feels bigger without all that toxic energy. Tyler wants to know if he can see your apartment again. He's obsessed with your gaming setup. Maybe we can visit sometime. I said, yes, of course, because that's what family does. They support each other regardless of appearance or circumstance. As I finish typing this, I'm sitting in my living room, watching the sunset over the city. My apartment is exactly as beautiful as it was the day I bought it, but now it represents something more. It's not just my home. It's proof that I don't have to accept less because someone else thinks I deserve less. David was wrong about everything. I may not be conventionally attractive, but I'm worthy of every good thing in my life. My appearance doesn't determine my value, my worth, or what I deserve. It took me 31 years and an attempted apartment theft to fully grasp that, but better late than never. To anyone reading this who's been told they don't deserve nice things because of how they look, they're lying. You deserve every wonderful thing you work for. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. And to David, if you're reading this and knowing you probably are, I hope you get help. I hope you learn that other people's success doesn't diminish you. I hope you understand that appearance doesn't determine worth, and I hope someday you can be happy for others instead of bitter about what you think they don't deserve. But until then, stay away from my apartment. Final update. 1 month later, I thought I was finished updating, but I wanted to share the conclusion of this story and some positive developments. First, the legal matters. David was served with a restraining order 3 weeks ago after the attempted showing incident. He challenged it initially, but when my lawyer presented the security footage, text messages, and witness statements, his lawyer advised him to accept it. He's legally required to stay 500 feet away from me and my building for the next 2 years. The extended family fallout was significant. Word spread about him bringing buyers to my apartment, and even the relatives who initially thought he might have a point were appalled. Our grandmother, who's 87 and doesn't hold back, called him personally to say she was ashamed to share DNA with someone so ugly on the inside. But the real closure came from an unexpected source, David himself. 2 weeks ago, I received a letter through my lawyer. It was from David, written as part of his court-mandated therapy. His therapist apparently suggested writing letters, not to send, but as an exercise to people he'd wronged. David chose to send his. It was insightful. He admitted that he'd always been envious of me, not of my appearance, obviously, but of my inner peace. He wrote, "You were never the golden child, but you were okay with that. You built your life without needing constant validation. I got everything I was supposed to want: the looks, the athlete scholarship, the pretty wife, but it was never enough. Seeing you happy in your apartment, successful despite everything I said about you, made me realize that maybe I was the one who had it wrong." He went on to explain that his own insecurities about providing for his family had spiraled into an obsession with my apartment. He'd convinced himself that if he could just get my space, he could fix everything. His marriage, his finances, his relationship with his kids. The cruel comments about my appearance were his way of justifying why he deserved it more. I told myself ugly people don't need beautiful spaces because I couldn't stand that you'd earned something I couldn't afford. It was easier to attack you than admit I'd failed. He ended by saying he didn't expect forgiveness and understood if I never wanted to speak to him again. He's continuing therapy and working on rebuilding his relationship with his children from his supervised visits. I haven't responded and don't plan to. Some bridges, once burned, don't need rebuilding, but the letter did provide me with a sense of closure. It confirmed what my therapist had helped me understand. This was never about my appearance. It was about David's own struggles and his need to put others down to feel better about himself. Now for the positive updates. Sarah and the kids have visited several times. Tyler is teaching me to play his favorite video games, and Emily has decided my guest room is the perfect place for her elaborate tea parties. Sarah and I have developed an unexpected friendship. She told me that watching me stand up to David gave her the courage to leave. My parents have been incredible. They've started family dinners again, without David, and my father recently told me he's proud of how I handled everything. You showed more grace than I would have, he said. You could have destroyed him with everything he said, but you just protected yourself and moved on. That takes strength. My therapy has been transformative. We've worked through decades of internalized messages about my worth being tied to my appearance. I've even started dating. Nothing serious yet, but I've been on a few coffee dates. It turns out when you're not constantly apologizing for how you look, people actually enjoy your company. Who knew? The apartment itself has become even more of a sanctuary. I've hosted game nights with friends, had Jennifer and her husband stay for a long weekend, and even threw a small dinner party last week. Every gathering in this space feels like a tiny victory against the voice that once said I didn't deserve it. But perhaps the best development is the nonprofit work I've started. I'm volunteering with an organization that helps young people with visible differences build self-esteem and career skills. Sharing my story, how I succeeded professionally despite the bullying, how I learned to value myself beyond appearance, has been incredibly healing. Next month, I'm speaking at their annual conference about overcoming family discrimination and building self-worth. If you told me 6 months ago that David's attempt to steal my apartment would lead to me becoming an advocate for others, I'd have laughed. But sometimes the worst situations reveal our strength and purpose. To everyone who supported me through this journey, thank you. Your comments and messages reminded me that I wasn't crazy, that I did deserve my home, and that standing up for myself was the right choice. To anyone dealing with similar situations, please know you are worthy of every good thing in your life. Your appearance does not determine your value. The people who truly matter will see your worth regardless of how you look. And anyone who tries to use your appearance against you is telling you everything about their character and nothing about yours. My apartment is still beautiful, my life is fuller than ever, and I finally truly understand that I deserve all of it. This is my final update. Thank you for being part of this journey. Michael P.S. Yesterday, I got a text from my 5-year-old niece, Emily. Uncle Michael, Mommy helped me write this. I love your apartment and I love you. You're not ugly, you're my uncle and you're perfect. Maybe that's all any of us need to remember. We're perfect to the people who matter, exactly as we are.